Okay, guys. So we are now on customary units of capacity, and I made this chart that I'm going to fill out for you here. And it's a little bit more complicated than if, not complicated, but it's a little more extensive than if you looked up a conversion chart online with all of these units, because then you'd have to just do a little bit more math. So, customary units of capacity has to deal with liquids. So, like when we did the ones with weight would be like anything that we would have that like flour or like oats or anything like that, even like cereal. And then with capacity, it has to do with liquid. So basically, we want to think about things that we carry with liquids. So we have ounces. So you would see it as FLOZ if you looked at anything in your fridge or anything like that. It just means fluid ounces, which is just means that the ounces are now having to deal with fluids. A cup would be just like a regular cup that you would use. A pint is like the small little containers, kind of like if you got like a little milk at like McDonald's, or if your baker's not me, but like how you have that little tiny thing of like creamer or something like that. And then the quart is usually like in the cardboard container at the grocery store, like if you got a small little milk, like that's kind of tall and skinny, or if your parents use like creamer, or like the box water, if you've ever seen the box water. And then the half gallon would be like the smaller plastic things of like orange juice or chocolate milk, but also like what regular orange juice comes in with the cardboard container, that's a half gallon. And then the gallons like your milk or your like your water. If any of these confuse you, a good idea is to just Google like pictures of them. If we were in school, I have like actual containers. I know this is tough, but Google what they look like so that you have a better picture in your mind. Okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make this chart. And what usually happens when you have this conversion chart is they just tell you like a couple of them, and then you have to figure it out as you go along. But the way that I have this chart set up is that you'll be able to use it for everything. Okay? All right, so if you have your math notebook, make sure to copy this over. Or when you're doing your assignment, just use two devices and pause this chart on your screen. Okay? All right. So what we're going to do is kind of like a multiplication chart. So I'm going to look at this way. See this little box here where I'm writing in red from the top across. So I'm going to read across. So I'm not going to read up and down. I'm going to read across. So the question is, what we're going to do is so anytime we have double here, so in this box right here, ounce and ounce, we're not going to put anything in there. So the first thing we're going to ask ourselves is how many ounces are in a cup? So there's 8 ounces in a cup. So as we're reading it from across. So we go over here where I put in this little red. We're reading from ounces to cups. So we're reading across. Okay. So now we're going to say, okay, how many ounces are in a pint? And what we're going to do is with ounces, you just basically multiply every time, or you double it, or you add 8. So doubling 8, so there's 16 ounces in a pint. Okay? Now we're going to say how many ounces are in a quart, which is over here. And again, where I put the red. How many ounces are in a quart? Well, I have to add 8, or double it. And now again, not add 8, double it. So double 8 is 16. Double 16 is 32. So 32 ounces are in a quart. Again, where my red is, in half gallon. So ounces to half gallon. What am I going to do with that 32? I'm going to double it, and that would be 64. And then how many ounces are in a gallon? I'm sorry. And then I got to double, not 8, but double 64, which would be 128 ounces. So, in a regular chart that you might find on the internet, they'll tell you like there's 8 ounces in a cup, and then you have to figure out the rest yourself. Whereas I just did it, you can now just go across and figure it out. So like if you had a question on your I know and it said how many ounces are in a pint, instead of figuring it out, you just literally go to your chart and say, okay, again, I go from across. Okay, well, there's 16 ounces in a pint. Okay, how many ounces are in a gallon? I go across 128. How many ounces in a cup? Go across, it's 8. How many ounces in a quart? 32. How many ounces in a half gallon? 64. Okay, so now I'm going to use a different color here, and I'm only using a different color just to show you. You guys don't have to use a different color when you're writing this down unless you want to. Okay, so again, I'm going to X these two off because they're smaller measurements. Okay, so how many cups are in a pint? 2. There's 2 cups in a pint. So cup to pint, 2 cups. So that means if I was at the grocery store, would I rather buy 2 cups of something or 1 pint? Well, if I don't have enough hands, I'd rather buy 1 pint because I have to carry less. And these are all going to be like multiples of 2, so it's pretty easy to go along. Okay, so how many cups are in a quart? What do we think? I'm just going to double it. So it's going to be 4. Again, I'm not multiplying, I'm doubling, which is the same thing, but like I'm not just doubling, I'm not just adding 2 every time, I'm doubling it. So so double 2, or 2 times 2 is 4. It's not 4 times, it's doubling 4, which is 4 times 2, which is 8. It just works out that way. So there's 8 cups and a half gallon. And then again, I'm going to double it. How many are in a gallon? 16. So if you saw how I did that. So doubling, doubling, doubling by the number. Okay, so if I'm asking myself, okay, again, I'm reading across where my red arrow is. How many cups are in a gallon? There's 16 cups. How many cups are in a quart? 4. How many cups are in a half gallon? 8. Okay, so next up is our pints. And again, I'm just going to X off anything that is smaller than a pint. We're going to start seeing a pattern unfold here. Okay, so how many pints are in a quart? 2. 2 pints are in a quart. And again, I'm always going to double. So double 2 is going to be 4. So there's 4 pints in a half gallon. And double 4 would be 8. So there's 8 pints in a gallon. And if you can see the pattern, we have 2, 4, 8, 16. Now we have 2, 4, 8. Okay. So now we're going to go with our quarts. So I am going to X off anything until I get to quart. And how many quarts do we think is in a half gallon if we follow our pattern? Well, that's going to be 2. And then how many quarts are going to be in a gallon? That's going to be 4. So if you see our pattern here is getting kind of smaller and smaller. So what should I do with this half gallon? I should put X's all the way here. And what are we going to put here? 2. Okay? And then the gallon's not going to have anything in it because that's our biggest one, so we don't have anything that goes in it. That's that. Okay? So this is our chart. It's very extensive. What you'll usually find if you like looked up a conversion chart is you would have like 1 cup equals 2 pints. 2 pints equals 4 quarts. 4 quarts are in a gallon. So you wouldn't have all of these. So it would just be a little bit more confusing. So this is just a little bit bigger. It just spreads it out more. So you don't have to do as many conversions as you would think. Okay. Okay. So part 2. Now I'm going to do the conversions. So I have my chart in front of me and I'm looking and it's saying 8 gallons equals how many cups? So if I look at my chart and I'm looking from left to right on my chart, so I'm just going to draw like a fake box here because it's on the other page for me. So here's my chart. So I'm looking this way. So I need to go on the cups. So say this says cups here. I need to go all the way across to gallons. And what does it say on this line for cups? It should say that there are 16 cups in a gallon. So just like with our measurement, like our length and our weight, we have to decide when are we going to multiply and when are we going to divide. So we're going to multiply when we need more of things. So when we're going backwards from gallons towards ounces, we're going to multiply. So when we're going right to left, sorry. You know I'm left-handed and backwards. To ounces, we have to multiply because we're going from a bigger container to a smaller container, so we need more of them. If we're going left to right, so if we're going ounces to gallons, we're going to divide because we need less of them. We don't have to buy as many cups if we're buying it in a gallon. So if we think about it, you could either go to the store and buy like 20 individual drinks, or you could just buy like a big jug or a gallon and then pour it. That makes sense. Okay, so if we're going from gallons to cups, are we going to multiply or divide? We're going to multiply because we need more of it. We're going from a bigger measurement on the right to a smaller measurement on the left. So that means we're going to multiply. So we're going to do 16 times 8. The 16 comes from how many cups are in 1 gallon, and the 8 comes from the 8 gallons. So 6 times 8 is 48. Carry the 4. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12. So there's 128 cups in a gallon. And 8 gallons, sorry. Okay, pints. And I want to know how many gallons I have. The first thing I need to do is look to say, okay, how many pints are in a gallon? So I'm going to go on my chart and I'm going to go from across. So I'm going to look across. I'm going to find my pints. And then I'm going to go across 2 gallons. And there should be 8 pints in a gallon. Okay? So now I have to decide, am I going to multiply 112 times 8 or am I going to divide 112 times 8? So which way am I going? I'm going from a smaller measurement to a bigger measurement. Pints to gallons. I need less gallons, so that means I need to divide 8 divided by 112. So 8 goes into 11 once. 11 minus 8 is 3. Bring down the 2. 8 goes into 32 4 times, so I would need 14 gallons. So instead of buying 112 pints, I would just buy 14 gallons of something. Okay, then for the next one over here, we have quarts into pints. How many pints are in 11 quarts? Sorry. Again, I'm going to go to my chart. I'm going to look across on pints because that's the one that I need. And then I'm going to say how many pints are in a quart. And there are 2 pints in a quart. So now I have to ask myself, which way am I going? Am I going right to left or am I going left to right? Which measurement do I need more of? And I'm going from a bigger measurement to a smaller measurement, so I have to multiply, and I have to multiply by 2. So I'm going to do 11 times 2. Again, the 11 stands for how many quarts I have, and the 2 stands for how many pints are in a quart. So 11 times 2 is 22, and so there's 22 pints. Okay, so the next one I have is I have 40 quarts, and I want to know how many gallons I have. So I'm going to go on my chart to quarts. I'm going to go around across, see how many quarts are in a gallon. There's 4 quarts in 1 gallon. So now I have to ask myself, am I going from a bigger measurement to a smaller measurement, or am I going from a smaller measurement to a bigger measurement? And I can just look on my chart and just look across. Quarts are smaller than gallons. I need less of them, so I'm going across this way. So I'm going to divide. So I'm going to do 4 divided by 40, which would be 10. I need 10 gallons. Again, if you're doing this and you're doing the math correctly, but you have the opposite answer, so like when you're doing your I know it, and for example, say you multiplied by 4. So you got 80, or 160, I'm sorry. Then you know that you're just doing it backwards. And I know that seems really confusing, and that's the hard part of doing it by yourself at home, but do the best you can and keep trying it, okay?